So I wanted to spend a little bit of time today going over data strategy, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is that a lot of organizations are working through data strategy, and I wanted to kind of give maybe a different perspective on how to get this accomplished. So stay tuned. We're going to walk through this hand-drawn drawing to kind of go over some of those benefits and attributes of a good data strategy. So the reality is that we need to understand our data, and this is an issue that extends for everyone. Governments throughout the globe, corporations, everybody has this challenge. We have so much data, and it can be used for so many great things, but the data is all over the place, and we're progressively trying to get our hands around it. And what I'm going to share with you today is from an operational perspective. And so up in the upper left-hand corner there, really we're going to talk about these 5 primary challenges: data integration, interoperability, quality, security, and governance. So how do you get your hands around those challenges and kind of make that work? So when we talk about data integration, we're talking about the integration of your data to other data sets. Now, that may be the integration of your data as you being the primary contributor to another data set. That may be one option. The other option may be that you have your data and you realize within your organization or within the world, somebody else is already collecting that data. And so you can immediately integrate with that data and augment your data, hence reducing your workload to collect data and to maintain data. So integration and interoperability really are very similar in nature. There's some key differences, but we're not here really to talk about that. But the interoperability is how your data then is consumed as well by other targets. And then that's where we really start talking about and kind of bleeds into the next section, which is data quality. We still really start talking about tagging of data, standards of data, how that data moves around so that everything means the same thing, right? Is it, for example, first? Is it first name? Is it surname? Is it whatever, right? What are we using to call it, whatever it happens to be? So we have to be able to create that quality within our data, and it has to interoperate and integrate with other large data sets as well. But I know that's a huge problem, and I'm not kind of reducing that anything about that. But the reality is that we have a lot of tools now, AI and machine learning tools, that can go in and scrub data sets and clean them up for us. And it's not perfect, and we got a long way still to go on this. But there is automation that can understand that we can feed it information and say, hey, look, if you have something that says street, road, or avenue, let's check those things, right? Because it equals address or whatever, right? So anyways, data security and governance. Data security really is focused, that challenge really is focused on how do we secure our data within multiple data layers, right? For example, in the U.S. military, it may be SIPR, NIPR, and JWICs. In corporate America, it may be PII, it may be health data, all types of other data sets, banking data, all those have different data security requirements. And then, of course, governance. And governance really goes into that which honestly is probably the easiest of the 5 here to implement from a technology perspective. It's process, right? So how do you keep that data clean, sustainable? How do you perish data that needs to be perished, those type of things. Those are process based. Those are things that we can get our hands around pretty easily. So governance certainly. But those are the primary challenges within the environment. So let's talk about strategy. So how do you deal with the strategy of this environment? Well, a lot of times we need to understand what exactly our data is being used for. You see, it's not just a technical issue that we're having. We're having a cultural issue. So up until, a couple years ago, and perhaps even people today, still view data as a means to an end, right? For example, I am purchasing a house, and I provide a lot of data to purchase that house. I'm providing all types of data, right? Financial data, job history data, all of that, right? So I'm providing data, and it is a means to an end, right? I want to buy the house, and the lender wants me to give them all this data. That's great, okay? So that is it's a great example of just providing data to meet an outcome, an objective. Now, take that data and view it as an asset. So if we take that data and view it as an asset, what does that look like now? So that data now not only becomes the data for Joe Snuffy to get a house, but now that data is combined with other data in your area to define house values or to define the makeup of the diversity of a neighborhood or to define how many kids are coming in for school districts. All of that now becomes an asset to planning. So we understand we have to shift our culture to be thinking about every piece of data I use and every application I develop, and I use that data in, all of that, does it become an asset in the future? Or is it highly perishable data? So an example of highly perishable data may be I need to go from point A to point B, and the coordinates for point B is 123 nothing street. Well, okay, so that's the address I need to go to at point B. When I arrive there, that data, the address, 123 nothing street, is expired. That data is gone because I'm already there. I don't need that data anymore. If you could take it into a military operation, for example. If target X is at coordinates Y, once target X has been executed, then the data, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Where the target was doesn't matter because the target tends to move a lot. So, those type of things really contribute to kind of what type of data becomes an asset for some of that data being perishable. So, and I know I've spent probably too long talking about the concepts behind what I'm going to talk about here with A, B, C, and D, but it's important to understand that data is real and it lives in our environment and it's the way we see it. And our job is to change culture, all of culture, to see that. Now, we can start from the data set itself and create these learning modules and have self-aware technology and automation, generative AI. Wonderful. These are great additions to our society, but they're still not addressing the problem with what is it that user Joe Snuffy uses in your organization to get that dashboard out or to get that deliverable report out. What data does Joe Snuffy actually access? And how many applications along the way does Joe touch, right, to get to that data and to produce the output? And that's what you see illustrated here. A really says these are the applications and the processes we're using to access that data, right? And then here is where the data is. That gives us an attainable outcome, right? We can see what is going to be used by that data. We have visualization capabilities of that data. So that's B there. And then from that, we can produce tangible results for that person, Joe Snuffy, in that department, let's say human resources. So those tangible results would be maybe expansion of the data center, maybe going to cloud, maybe putting data, maybe you're a multinational company and putting data closer to the user because of throughput issues or challenges of networks going down, things of that nature. All of that becomes the sizing component, because now we know that Joe Snuffy may work with 10 applications, but really the output that we want, we've prioritized as critical, and that really only comes from one data set and one application, not all 10. So we need to prioritize what that one is and push it up to the top of the list to be cloudified or to be on the edge or whatever, right? But we need to make sure that that's available so Joe can always have that. Because, why? Because we as the organization, we've clearly defined what the scope is, what the output needs to be, and we understand how we get to that output. And understanding how we get to that output, A, B, and C, is very difficult. And we have to do it. Because as we begin to understand more, now we'll begin to turn the tables a little bit, and we'll be able to adjust those data models, and everything that's working, we'll be able to truly see what it is that we need to do within our environments and how we need to get there. So that includes, of course, sizing, networks, what people, and then the output, number D there, and you can see kind of on the right side of number C there, we optimize our spending and we align to whatever mission that we have as a corporation or a military. And we now know what data needs to feed into these large models to enable things like machine learning and artificial intelligence for our organization. All scope based. Not just because it's a big clump of data and we're going to work on it. Those are good things to do as well. But when we want the organization to truly change, we have to start at what applications are used within the organization and make change there by documenting and understanding what their environment is so that we can optimize it, sustain it, and move it into really artificial intelligence and machine learning where applicable.